Welcome to Brilliantly British. My name is Lawrence and today I'm going to show you how to make British school dinner pie and mash. So as I show you how to make it, sit back, relax with a cup of tea in hand, putting your feet up too, and enjoy this episode. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. For those of us that schooled in the UK, from time to time we'll fondly recall the school uniforms, the classrooms, and the school dinners or lunches which were either looked forward to or reviled. Nevertheless, this split of opinions hasn't stopped us from revising and thus refreshing a particular classic school meal. The dish in question happens to be minced meat and vegetable pies with mashed potatoes and gravy, served the same way it would have been served to me many moons ago. So, with the introductions made for this requested dish and your interest peaking, allow me to introduce the ingredients to you. For today's Brilliantly British school dinner pie and mash, you will need some chopped up swede, chopped celery, chopped onion, plain white flour, an egg, some chopped carrots, some peas, a potato, butter, ideally homemade, Brilliantly British inverted puff pastry. If you haven't got some in your fridge, then follow the link up there to learn how to make it yourselves at home. You will also be needing some good quality beef mince, some Worcestershire sauce, and of course, to avoid the occurrence of bland food, you will need some salt and some pepper. That's it for the making of today's Brilliantly British school dinner pie and mash. But before you get started, before you do anything at all, I say switch on your kettle, brew yourself a nice cup of hot tea so that you can sip on that whilst you cook. First of all, start by rolling out your puff pastry to a thickness of 5 millimeters, whilst making sure that you're able to cut out 8 centimeter squares. With the squares cut out, flour, stack and store them in your fridge, ready for later on. Now for the filling. In an oiled sauté pan over a high heat, drop in your mince, celery and onion, and if you hate chunks of mince, furiously break up the mince as it fries, adding there also a sprinkle of salt. Allow the contents to fry until the contents dry with a brown fond forming at the bottom of your pan, meaning flavour. To lift the fond from the bottom of the pan, still over a high heat, add in your Worcestershire sauce, stir in, follow on with the addition of some diced swede, diced carrots, around 400 millilitres of water before lowering the intensity of the heat to a medium level and allowing to simmer under a lid until the vegetables tenderize. With the vegetables tender, create a slurry with flour and water, adding it to your pan thereafter, which I'll cook until thick before seasoning heavily with pepper and, if necessary, more salt. The contents will need to be left to cool completely. So, in the meantime, we'll make the short crust pastry. For the pastry, blend flour and butter together with a pinch of salt if you're using unsalted butter until sand-like in appearance. Turn the mixture out into a large bowl, then incrementally drizzle in just enough water to form a cohesive ball of dough. Weigh the dough thereafter, then divide the dough equally into 8 before wrapping and resting in your fridge for at least 30 minutes. With the dough made, I'll use the time to butter and flour 8 pastry rings, then lay them on a foil and baking paper lined tray. I'll then recall my balls of dough, which I'll then roll out to a thickness of 3 to 4 millimeters before tucking into each of my square and round pastry rings. With all of the pastry tucked in, begin to preheat your oven, then line them all with baking paper. You'll then want to prick the base with a fork, fill with baking beans or rice in my case, making sure that all nooks and crannies have been attended to. I'll then tent with foil in order to prevent my rice from browning before placing in my oven to blind bake. And of course, use the time to enjoy an episode or two from the channel, making sure of course to like and subscribe. After baking, carefully remove the rice and paper lining I had to tweezer out rice because I didn't properly align my pastry with paper. So, lesson learned. But anyway, with the task complete, I'll delicately remove all excesses before returning the tray to the oven to bake the pie crusts further. If after the second bake you notice some bulging with the pie crusts still hot, delicately flatten out the bubbles using 2 spoons. Then free your rings before laying on a wire rack to cool. Off camera, I began to cook some peeled and chopped potatoes, which will need little to no attention. So I'll recall my pie crusts, which I'll lay on a lined tray. I'll then add defrosted peas to my filling, fill with my cooled filling, begin preheating my oven, sip on some tea, then top my pies with the puff pastry squares from earlier on, cutting off any excesses, then crimping the edges with a fork to properly seal the pies, before egg washing, decoratively scoring with a hole to allow steam to escape. Now, sip on some tea, then begin to bake your batch of pies. Now, not wanting to waste any time, drain and mash your now cooked potatoes, sip on some more tea, then stir in diced butter, followed by the addition of salt to taste, finishing for now by returning to a pot over a low heat to stay warm. With the pies still baking and the mash made, begin to warm some stock over a medium-low heat. Then, when ready, summon your batch of pies from the oven and, holding back the excitement, transfer them to a wire rack to avoid the occurrence of a soggy bottom. Sip on some tea and then add a flour water slurry to your stock, whisking and sipping constantly over a medium heat until thick and glossy. And well, with all steps complete and all elements made, I think it's now time for tasting. All right, let's plate up. All right, this amazing dish has been served and I'm going to now cover it, douse it in my gravy. Beautiful. Let's go for the pie first. Oh, that is a good crust. Oh, beautiful. Enough talking. 3, 2, 1. Yes. Okay, I think it's safe to say the pies I had at school, they were great, they were delicious. It was one of the best days of the week when this was on the menu, but they were nothing like this pie here. This is crunchy, the texture is there, you've got the vegetables still intact, and each and every one of them can be identified. It's meaty, you've got peppery notes coming through. This was well and truly peppered, and this is fantastic, really. Now I'm going to try the mash. That mash is the definition. I think I've said this before, but I'm saying it again. It is the definition of smooth. Oh, there isn't a single lump in it. It's creamy, rich, it just goes down like silk. And with the texture from this pie and this mash in combination. Oh, beautiful. And then with the gravy to round everything off, this dish is fantastic. So do not delay, waste no time at all. Go and get the ingredients and please make this dish. Thank you all for allowing me to show you how to make British school dinner, pie and mash. Knowing that you loved this episode, don't forget to click on the like button, the subscribe button and the notification button so that you don't miss any of our new releases. Tell everyone you know about the brilliantly British food on this channel and follow us on all of the social media platforms that this channel is on, and I will see you next time.